On behalf of Mayor Catherine Pugh, thank you so much for coming out tonight to the 5th of 9 meet and greets with Acting Police Commissioner Michael Harrison. My name is Shantae Guy, and I will be your facilitator tonight. I grew up in the 1900 block of Herbert Street, right off of Monroe and North Avenue, so it feels really good to be right back here. Before we begin tonight, there are a few administrative and housekeeping items that I'd like to share with you. Sign language services are available here to my right. Tonight's an opportunity for all of us to get to know our new Acting Police Commissioner better, and for him to hear your hopes and your concerns as it relates to policing our community. For those of you who have signed up to speak tonight, listen for your names. I will call 5 names at a time so folks can come up to the microphone here and be ready to share their thoughts with us and the Acting Police Commissioner. When you come up to the microphone, please remind us of your name and tell us the neighborhood you live in. Whether it's Gilmore or Sandtown or Upton or somewhere else, we want to hear where you come from. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When your 2 minutes are up, you're going to hear a timer sound. I'm sure that everyone agrees that the police commissioner should hear as many voices as possible. As such, I'm going to be working really hard to make sure that the voices who haven't been heard at other forums have the opportunity to share their hopes and concerns with the police commissioner. It is my intention to make sure that everyone who signed up to speak tonight gets called to the microphone. If you have a question but you would prefer not to ask it at the microphone, feel free to write your question down, raise your hand, and a City Hall staff member will bring the question to the front. Join me in thanking Principal Rivers. Where are you, Principal Rivers? There you are. Join me in thanking Principal Rivers for welcoming us to his building. Principal Rivers is a really good friend of mine. Used to be the principal at Mervo, and I cried when he left. As a former Mervo alum, and my youngest son goes there, I should tell parents of students that are Douglas students that you are lucky to have him. Yes. Yeah. So in addition to the police commissioner, we're also joined tonight by Major Webb, Captain Taylor, and members of the neighborhood coordination officers, Sergeant Page and Officers Feaster and Jones of the Western District. I'd also like to acknowledge City Council President Jack Young. Where are you, Jack? I saw you earlier. Oh, where is he? In the back. Okay, hiding in the back. And, and Councilman Leon Pinkett. So with the administrative things out of the way, please join me in welcoming Mayor Catherine Pugh to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I don't want to be up here long because you came to hear from our commissioner, but I also wanted to welcome the Douglas alumni because the Douglas alumni are always here supporting Douglas, and also the Mondawmin community, the Mondawmin Coordinating Council, all of the communities that are around Douglas. Thank you all. Thank you for also your support for this school, and thank you for leaning in on the incident that we recently happened right here. As I said to a young lady, we must make sure that we're following protocol because incidents like that should not happen in our schools or to our children or to our principals or to our students and faculty and the teachers and everyone who works here. So thank you everyone for leaning in. But at the same time, I want to say to you all, we are excited about our new commissioner who is going through his confirmation process, but decided that the most important thing was to come out and hear from you all, to hear your concerns. And so we hope that you speak freely and openly. And the other thing that I want to share with you is that we are in transition as it relates to our police department. We're grateful that we're going to get a new leader, but at the same time, we also know that there are things that we must do. As many of you know, we were 554 police officers down when we came into office, but we know that we've got a recruitment program that is in place, and we also have a cadet program that has been certified by the state so that we can get young people from our own city in our police department, the best and the brightest. And I also want to say thank you to Douglas because a number of the young people from here left here and went to Baltimore City Community College for free. And let's give them a big round of applause. 500 and some odd students just last year, and we're expecting those same numbers this year. So we know that we've got some great young people in our city, and so we're looking forward to making sure that we provide everything that they need. And also with our neighborhood investment impact fund, that we're going to be investing more in neighborhoods. I know that in a couple of weeks you'll hear about the community grants that we're going to be giving out to the neighborhoods and community organizations. And again, I'm going to just put a shout out for the young people. Our young people want to work, you all, just in case folks don't know it. I remember when it was 5,000 young people who applied to work each summer. This year, with 3 more weeks still to go, we're up to 13,000 young people who want to work this summer. So we're going to be doing everything we can to make sure that they do. And now we have a year-round program working with our young people, Be More Beautiful campaign, for those who want to work on the weekends and earn a little bit of cash. I see one of our young people shaking their heads. They're doing that. So again, you all, welcome. We look forward to the conversation, and we also look forward to the confirmation. I just want to share one other thing with you that the commissioner said to me the other day. We do walks, as many of you know, in the neighborhoods and communities, and he said to me, I prayed that it wouldn't snow on this particular evening. As you all know, he's from New Orleans, but he's now a Baltimorean. C.C. Harrison, can you stand up for just a second? This is the wife of our incoming commissioner, and we're really excited to welcome her to Baltimore as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So before we turn it over to the police commissioner, I'm going to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence to send light and love to this school. Ashe? PC? Commissioner?
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Look, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you all for coming out. This is our 5th night in a row, and look, I feel just as good as I felt Monday night. That's right. So thank you, and it's important that you're here, number one, so I can just share a few things with you, but more importantly, for me to hear from you. You know, I want to always thank our mayor who gave me this wonderful opportunity to come and be the leader of the Baltimore Police Department. And I'm eternally grateful. And so to the command staff, thank you all for the work you do. You know, I can tell by shaking hands with the community members here that y'all have been doing a good job, because I can tell when you're performing, and it shows by the response from the residents. And so y'all keep doing a good job. We're always looking to get better, but thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. To our council president, I saw him a few minutes ago. I don't know if he was able to come back in. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. He's been with us every single night, and I thank you. I appreciate that. To other council members, thank you so much. Councilman Pinckney, thank you for being with us. Really appreciate you. Last but not least, you know, my wife is joining me in this journey. We're now Baltimoreans. That's how did I say it right? I said it right? You know, we drove up last week, man, 2-day drive, and we're now living here in Baltimore. And she gave up a wonderful career to join me in this. I had a great 28-year career with NOPD in law enforcement, but she had a career also, and for us to accomplish this, we had to come together, and we come as a package deal. So thank you for the sacrifice that you made. We appreciate that. And so we've been with each other since we were little kids. She was 13, I was 15 when we met, and we've been together ever since. And we've been married going on 27 years, 2 kids. They're not kids anymore, 25 and 21. They're kind of grown and on their own. And so here we are. We find ourselves in Baltimore. I retired from the New Orleans Police Department. I started at 21. Took on some of the toughest, challenging neighborhoods and some of the toughest assignments in my early years. And worked my way through the mid-'90s, which was if you remember what happened in the '90s, the height of the crack epidemic, and what America was like during those years. It was challenging for police. But during that part of the time, just like there was high crime and high addiction, there was high corruption in police departments back then too. So I found myself working undercover in a narcotics unit for about 5 years, one of which was with the Drug Enforcement Administration, one of which was for the FBI, but that was my specialty back then. I found myself, as often as I found myself catching bad drug dealers, I found myself catching corrupt police officers, because everywhere I turned, that's what I found, but that was back then, that was in New Orleans. Had no problem, even then, as a young police officer, taking down and helping take down bad police officers to get them out of our department. Because if they had the gall to put my life in danger, I had no problem helping get rid of them. Now, that caught the attention of the chief, who called me into his office and said, "Young man, I'm going to promote you to sergeant." Made me a sergeant, did a little time in the field, and he put me in internal affairs. He said, "I want you to take that skill set and help me get rid of a whole bunch of bad cops out of our department." So for the next 9 years, that's exactly what I did, as a sergeant and as a lieutenant. That got the attention of the chief again when we started to really clean the department up, promoted me to commander, and put me back in narcotics, now as a commander. Did a year there, then took on a district as a district commander. He put me in charge of the biggest district in the city that had the biggest homeowners population, the biggest rental population, the biggest housing development population. But it had the most challenges as well. Two of the 3 years there, we were able to reduce crime and build good relationships, so much so that it got the attention of the mayor. And the mayor tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I want you to be my chief," and promoted me over all of the assistant chiefs. And so I became the chief in 2014. The second year in the consent decree, just like you have this consent decree here, we had one in New Orleans. Because in 2012, the Department of Justice came into the department, did an investigation about things that happened that kind of feel like what happened here, but were just as bad. And they called us the most troubled department in America. The most troubled department in America. It's 100% makeover of a department. Change everything. Change your policies, your practices, your protocol, the way you think, the way you look, the way you talk to people, the way you listen to people, how you respond. Our consent decree meant change everything and start from scratch. This one means the same thing. So I'm the chief now in the second year. We move forward. I worked with Mayor Mitch Landrieu for 4 years with a comprehensive, multidisciplinary approach to dealing with violent crime, and over time you could see it come down. And in this last year, we brought it down in every single category, while at the same time transforming the police department into a 21st century police department that thought differently, that listened differently, that talked differently, that responded differently, so much so that when I started in 2014, the previous chief, and I didn't say this the other night, man, the previous chief had 29% citizen satisfaction. When I left last year, we were above 80%. 82% of people say they felt safe in their neighborhoods, and 67% said they liked their police department. Now, that being said, we're going to do that here. And so here I am. I get a phone call from the mayor. Yeah, it's going to take time. We're going to do that here, but I get a phone call from the mayor. And as you know, we had opportunities with other police chiefs because police chiefs talk, and that's my network of colleagues. There were opportunities where people, may have mentioned my name, but now I get a call from the mayor who offered me the position. And it really made me think about the evolution of my career. What's next for me? Thank God we did a good job in New Orleans. With the help of our God and with the help of great people and building a good team, we were able to do it. But now what's next for me? Thought about it. This is not just an offer from the mayor. This is an assignment that I believe God himself gave me. And we believe it so much that my wife, I retired and she gave up a great career and we accepted it. And so now we're here. And so we're taking on this challenge to, number one, take on this crime problem, to take on reforming a department. I know what it feels like to have said about me what's being said about you. I know what it feels like. It hurts. Doesn't feel good. I'm going to say this again in the end, but I'm going to start with this and I'm going to sit down. When it's all over with, whatever amount of time that takes, there are going to be mayors across America that's going to come and ask some of you to go to their cities and do what this mayor has asked me to do. When it's all over with. If we work together, we can change this police department that will produce good leaders, and then members of this department can become chiefs here and anywhere in America, because people are going to want to know, how did you do it? Let's go tap them to come help us change. That's my prediction, not prophecy, but prediction. And so let's get started. And so I'm here to hear from you. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Acting Police Commissioner Harrison. Now it's time to hear from you all. Again, when I call your name, please form a line at the microphone. When it's your turn to speak, share your concerns, your hopes, your issues with the Acting Police Commissioner. Remember to reintroduce yourself and tell us what neighborhood you live in. We're streaming this live for folks who were unable to join us tonight, so be sure to speak directly into the microphone. We have a lot of people signed up to speak tonight, so after you've shared your comment or your question, I'm going to ask you to step to the left of the microphone so the PC can talk to you and answer your question, but also so we can get the next person in line kind of up at the microphone. So our first 5 names are Doc Cheatham, Desiree Goldbolt, Jill Jones, Jerry, thank you very much, and Trey Murphy. If the 5 of you wouldn't mind stepping to the microphone.
Sure.
Doc, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening.
Welcome to Baltimore. On behalf of my 98-year young mother, who may be the oldest living graduate back in 1938, welcome to Douglas.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I'm president of Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association, which is probably about 8 blocks south of here. We're in the Western District. We commit, our neighborhood association and myself, we commit to help you in any and every way possible to bring our city to where it needs to be. So that's our first commitment.
Thank you.
We want to say that last year, our general neighborhood experienced 19 documented homicides. One general area, the Easterwood community. Sadly enough, we have 8 liquor stores in our area, coupled with 12 active open-air drug markets. In many of our stores, we have to call them, even though they sell groceries, we have to call them drug stores because open-air drug markets are there. We meet the 3rd Tuesday of every month. We like to get on the list to invite you, but we're here to say, one, welcome. We commit ourselves to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is very similar to what I've been hearing over the past 4 nights. I think one of the common things are the open-air drug markets, the nuisance issues that are crime issues, all of the things that deteriorate our quality of life, the inability to be able to go where you want to go in peace and kind of sit on your porch or walk your neighborhoods in peace. And so all of that we're working right now to assess how we're going to attack it. It's being attacked, but we can do a lot better. Certainly, we've lost people, but we're not going to use that as an excuse. We're working to, number one, increase our ranks. We're working, and you're going to see a very robust recruiting thing targeted for the people of Baltimore so that we can find the best people from Baltimore to join our ranks. Then we're working on improving our technology so that I can find the smartest solutions and the smartest strategies and the smartest initiatives to implement that can reduce the amount of work the officers have to do. Because by reducing the amount of work they have to do, the more free time they'll have. The more free time they'll have, the more they can focus on patrols, visibility, and doing all the things that we need them to do that sometimes they probably don't have time to do because we're inundated with the thousands upon thousands of calls, emergency calls, and all types of things. And so I'm making those assessments right now as to what the department looks like, what it feels like, what we can do, what we can't do, what we have, what we need, who we have, and who we need. And then the best way to go out and find who we need that we don't have. All that's happening right now. We commit to you that, yes, you're going to see improvements, but the common theme of those open drug markets, that's the highest priority, because there's a direct correlation between that and the violent crime and those 19 murders that you have in this one core central area.
God bless you.
And we're working on building the kind of relationships with you and everybody in this room and others like us to make sure that the relationships are solid enough for you to feel comfortable to tell us the information. Right now, we don't believe we're getting it as much as we can. We're getting some of it, but not as much as we can. We need to improve that, but that's only going to come from relationship building, and we commit to a world-class community policing philosophy that's going to build free time to build relationships so that one handshake at a time, one conversation at a time, people in this room will begin to feel better about us. You'll spread the word. They will feel better about us. We'll feel better about ourselves. And slowly but surely, you're going to start seeing things get better.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Goldwald, just before you start, a brief announcement. There's a blue Lexus with Tennessee tags outside. Your interior lights are on. We don't want you to go out there and your battery be dead. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening.
My name and to Mayor Pugh. Can you hear me now?
Good evening.
To our Commissioner, I want to welcome you to Baltimore City, to our Mayor and the City Council, and to all the delegates. I want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our views to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And welcome to your beautiful wife. My name is Desiree Godbolt. G-O-D, God, bolt like lightning bolt. Amen. I'm a chaplain for the Baltimore City Police Department, and I'm glad to be that so we can bring community collaboration together with our police officers. So this is for our chaplains.
Thank you.
Amen. But I had a question, and the gentleman mentioned it too. Two things I was concerned about was a couple things. One thing, you brought it out, you said technology. My question's about the technology with all these cameras going around and not catching the crime. Is it possible that somehow you can update technology, bring drones or something, or have the cameras monitored where those who are criminals or active criminals, they can see them and catch their picture? Because a lot of pictures are being taken, a lot of people are being seen, but a lot of things are not getting done because the camera caught apart or the camera is not working. Second, my concern is about the senior citizens. I live in a senior citizen facility, and it's not often that you see an officer drive around in our court to make sure that we're protected also, because people will drive through and come through and sit and beg, and the seniors feel threatened. And I'm confident with all that you've said that you're going to make sure that this happens. Back to what the gentleman said earlier about the drugstore. I was going to call it the storefront store, but he called it a drugstore, which I agree. I live in the Park Heights Northwest community area, and up by Park Heights and Belvedere, you'll see there's always a police car sitting there with the lights on. Yet still, when I drive by there, I'm looking at active drug activity being done within the store. And the police car is sitting right there. And one time I wanted to call and say, look, he's right there in the black suit. And I wonder, now, not about the police officers. I know they understaff. I know they care. I have a heart and a passion for the officers. But what about the store owners that's allowing this to happen right there in their storefront? Is it something that we can do to hold them accountable?
Great point. Thank you for that. We are right now, I'm learning about the complaint process for stores that are having violations committed on their premises and actions that can be taken and that are being taken against those stores and the managers and the owners of those stores. There's already a mechanism in place to deal with that when it's brought to our attention. I've already seen it. We were on the VRI walk the other day and walked into a store that had been under violation but came into compliance. The open-air drug markets with the police car right there, that's a concern. I don't know the answer to why the officer was there doing that or why there was no action being taken or what the officer saw or didn't see. What we want to do is make sure that we train our people to be high-performing officers and empower them through good training to be able to go and deal with the issues that are in front of them. Yes, we're understaffed. Yes, we're overworked, but we still got to be able to do what's right and handle what's right in front of us. At least to get rid of it, if not make an arrest, try to get it moved, or at least not in front there. There's a difference between what can be done on, we can do the same thing, but there's a training flaw, I believe, in what the officers think they know to do on public right-of-ways and on private property. So there's a massive education component to make sure we're trained and the officers are not just competent, but confident in how to make those approaches, how to make the proper observations, when they make the observations, how to take the appropriate actions, and then how to document those actions that hold up in court. So it is my goal to make sure we know how to do all of that. I'm not saying that we don't right now. I'm making the assessments about what we can and can't do. And then to make sure we do that. And then it's about being high performant and caring enough and having the time enough to take those actions.
Thank you. For the store owners, can we hold them accountable for allowing the people to come in and they see and acknowledge?
But that's a possibility. What we have to do is make sure that if that is the case, then we have to demonstrate that the store owner saw it and knew about it. But it's kind of hard to get inside a person's mind to know what they see and think. And so it's about taking action against the person committing the crime, which is what we want to do. We want the crime to go away, and drug dealing is a crime, and it leads to other violent crimes.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Obo. Ma'am?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jerry Okwesa. I'm a resident of Reservoir Hill here in Baltimore City. We welcome you, Commissioner Harrison,
Good evening.
and we are glad that you're here to help us with the problems that we have in this beautiful city. As you get to know us and we pull together our strategies for fighting crime, I want to introduce something, and I think this is a solution. I came with a solution, not a question.
Thank you.
We are members of the Forestry Board here in Baltimore City, and in just over a few years in my community of Reservoir Hill, we have planted trees, and we have transformed that neighborhood, or in the process of transforming that neighborhood, making it better by planting trees and making it a beautiful place to live. In over a few years, we have been involved with transforming my particular street, Newington Avenue, into a beautiful place to live. Our neighborhood has gone from being barren and just an unkempt place to a tree-lined street with beautiful homes, and homes are still being renovated. Our neighborhood has gone from being barren to beautiful. Our community is now interactive. The children can play on the street, and crime and trash has been considerably reduced. We're making it a beautiful place to live. That reduces crime. I am a retired school teacher with careers in both Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, and now I serve on the Sustainability Commission and on the Baltimore City Forestry Board. This is why we're interested in putting trees on the streets, making the communities more beautiful so that people will recognize that this is a place that you live in and a place that you should want to be as beautiful as are found in other cities. I invite you to stop by our neighborhood soon, particularly Newington Avenue, meet our neighbors, and see for yourself how we have improved the community. So we hope that you can help bring environmental justice to our streets. And this is another one of our members.
So stay right there, please. First of all, if I were in church, I'd be shouting right now. And I'd be giving an offering. I ain't gonna say how much, but if I were in church, I'd be shouting.
Okay, I have a present for you.
All right.
Start nothing, sir.
First of all, I don't know how, you know, but let me, you know, because I know you know, but let me help everybody else understand how deep you went. You know, I was fortunate to be able to put myself through school, all the way through getting a master's degree, but then I went on before I became the chief of New Orleans to teach college at 2 different colleges for about 4 years. And you have laid out a whole bunch of criminological theories that are at play that cause crime or either gets rid of crime. And you really touched on what's called a broken windows theory. And you have turned a community around and reversed the effects with a beautification project. And every time you did that, it moved the people out because the crime element took advantage of what was there, and the more you beautified it, the fewer of them came, and inevitably, it just spread. And it's almost like being back in college or something. You actually reversed the effects with that beautification project and applied a social science that works, that many don't understand, and those who don't understand don't even help to do it. That's an important thing, and people, you should be proud of that. We should all be proud of that, because that works.
Thank you.
And I just want to say that everything you have said has just been reiterated, because when I first moved onto Newington, there were 4 trees. There was drugs being sold on each corner and drugs throughout the neighborhood. Now there are no drugs. They may be indoors, but they're not on the street. Kids play. It is just beautiful. We now have a community garden, and the residents on Newington and all over the neighborhood appreciate what we've done.
You just gave everybody in here a criminology degree.
Ah.
Thank you, Ms. Aquesa. Just to check in before we begin again, for folks who came in a little late, and to remind folks who were here at the beginning, we have well over 24 more folks who have signed up to speak, and so I'm going to ask folks to be mindful of the timer so that everyone has the opportunity to share their concerns, their hopes, and their issues with the acting police commissioner. Thank you. Sir, your name?
My name is Russ Moss.
Good evening.
Good evening, Acting Commissioner, and welcome to Baltimore.
Good evening.
And I lived in Reservoir Hill for about 35 years, and many of the things that Jerry, who just finished, said are so true. And I wanted to just take, she belonged to the Forestry Board, and I do too, but we started something called the Flowering Trees Trails of Baltimore. So we know that trees and greenery reduces crime, and to prove that, I bought you and the mayor and Councilman Pinkett and President Young, wherever you are back there, I bought you all packets that has studies in it that document that is true. So when you all are working on the budgets, you might want to, because I really think, put some trees in there, because in order to make this place the wonderful place that it can be, I think we're going to have to use all of the tools in the box. And greenery and the beautification, it makes you feel better, makes you behave better, and it improves the quality of life, and it even raises the tax base. So
You're so right.
And so I know it's not all of the solution. We're going to need the folks in blue to do what you all do very well. And we're going to need all of the good neighbors, the eyes and the ears, all of those things that, many hands make small work. And so we're going to need all of that.
Yeah.
And so we are here, the Flowering Trees Trail of Baltimore and the Baltimore Forestry Board. We are offering to help.
Thank you. I look forward to that. That's going to make a big difference, and I look forward to you all being partners with us, because that is important. I'll take one of those, but that's going to be very important, and you're going to be great partners. And thank you for coming with help.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Sir, your question and your name, please?
Yeah, sure. Here we go again. Hello, I'm Trey. Trey Murphy with I guess I should be transparent with the ACLU of Maryland because I'm wearing an ACLU shirt, but I'm just a little hood boy from Park Heights, so I'm representing myself tonight. So put that out there. Shout out to Maryville, though. I know that you said that you went to Maryville. Shout out to the Mustang fam. Cool, yeah, so, I mean, I got 3 simple questions, but I want to preface it by saying first, you know, our city, our police department has a lot of issues. It's had a lot of issues for years. The Department of Justice investigation of consent decree didn't tell Baltimoreans like myself anything that we didn't already know, right? So I want to put it out there by first prefacing the conversation by saying that first. So shout out to the mayor. Thank you for holding this forum. Long time coming. Appreciate you. My 3 questions, though. So 1, we know that that our city has an issue with policing, right? But we're talking about Johns Hopkins getting a private police force. I know that you yourself have, I think, met with the president of Johns Hopkins. So just first want to know where you stand at on Hopkins having its own private police force. Second question, that's a follow-up from that. If legislation passes the state capitol this session that allows Hopkins to get its own police force, will you ensure that you are overseeing that police force? As we know clearly by the consent decree, our city has a problem with police forces running rogue. And then a final question is just around, that's tied to that but separate. Do you support the police department being a locally controlled entity? We know that a lot of the issues that stem from the consent decree stem from like decades upon decades of problems within our police departments, the fact that it's controlled, the policy at least is controlled by the State House, right? So there's people in Western Maryland or Southern Maryland who know nothing about my city making policies for the police department, right? So just want to know, do you support also a locally controlled police department? And then I'll end by saying I'm always going to be a person to ask the tough questions. Sorry, I know that you, yeah.
That's okay. I got a life of tough questions, and thank you for those. We did meet with the president of Johns Hopkins, but not independently, but with all the presidents of all the universities. We did meet, and that came up. And I made a number of things clear should that legislation pass, that if it did pass and they did move into having their own privatized police department, that it would have extremely limited jurisdiction, because you brought up the point, and you're absolutely right, we're aligned. We're under a consent decree which creates extremely high standards, and they would be required to just meet the minimum state requirements to have a sworn police department. That being said, they would have extremely limited authority and jurisdiction to handle only very limited things on a college campus. When it comes to things more serious, should it pass, that those more serious violent crime events and sexual assault events most likely would be handled by the Baltimore Police Department, but all of the efforts, though I wouldn't control it, because it's a private entity being run by a private police department being run by a private university, the deployment of their resources, because it sits in the city, has to be coordinated in a way that it's synchronized with the district where the university sits. And it's split. There's a hospital in one area, a main campus in another area. And so those deployment strategies have to be coordinated. They would have limited jurisdiction to patrol, limited authority to enforce certain things on campus and where students live. But even when there are uses of force and complaints against them, we have to figure out how that gets investigated and overseen, and as crimes get reported, how it's all aligned to make sure it's accurate, that somebody is coordinating all, not necessarily controlling it all. That make sense? And then your third question was about
local control of the police department. But before you go into that, I just also want to make the point that with the Johns Hopkins, we're talking about the privatization of public accommodations, right? Like policing is a state public accommodation, right? And so when we get into the business of handing it to private entity, that sets a bad precedence for any other private entity to have their own police department that enforces laws.
I got
Thank you, Trey.
I came from a city that had 6 universities, 4 of them were private, and all had sworn police departments that worked inside of a city. So it can be done, it can be managed and coordinated. It can be. Not that we want it, I'm just saying that it can happen. Now, but that sits within city limits on city property. As long as the efforts are coordinated, they have limited jurisdiction for the college campus, limited authority to enforce certain things, and all the efforts are coordinated. It can work, should it pass, and we don't know that it will. When it comes to local control, I'm in favor of anything that gives my boss and our leaders the ability to give us the resources we need to get the job done, to build the best technology, to recruit, hire, and train the best officers, to reform the way we think so that we can perform at a highest level and then produce great leaders, to buy more equipment so that we can be more effective and more efficient in the services we deliver to you, and then to build our ranks. It's all important. And anything that gives us the authority and the funding and the finances to do what we need to be the department that you pay for, deserve, and expect is what we want. Okay? Thank you.
We have 2 questions from the audience. The first question is, should school police carry guns in Baltimore City schools?
That's a good question. I will say that that's a parental issue for parents of students at schools. And I think the parents should get together in the schools that are within that concern, and those parents and the school board and the leadership of all the schools should get together, and the responsibility of the officers carrying guns should be something that the parents should decide that they want. And if that's something the parents are okay with, then 2, just like with the Johns Hopkins, the efforts of those security personnel, not police personnel, who are armed, and the limited authority they have that can be somewhat coordinated with police, and the training they get that we make sure is sufficient for them to do that in a legal and constitutional way, then if that is what the parents and the faculty and the leadership of the schools want and agree to, then we can help facilitate that. But that is really a parental decision that the parents have to come together and decide that that's what they want to move to.
And the second question from the audience, and then we'll call up 5 other folks. Do you have a plan for engaging multiple offender youth?
That is a very difficult thing, and the answer to that is yes. I understand how to deal with multiple offender youth. We had the same dynamic in New Orleans, and what's happening around the nation is that cities and jurisdictions are moving to jail depopulation initiatives. They're moving to fewer arrests for juveniles so that we're not creating more harm than good by arresting juveniles for minor offenses and only focusing on the violent and more serious offenses. I think the issue that comes in that happened in Louisiana that I believe is likely happening here and in many other states when I talk to chiefs around the country is that there are so few consequences to hold juveniles accountable for those violent offenses and multiple offenses. And there's not enough effort being put on the front end to change the social ills and all of the issues that make kids move toward crime, either being pulled toward it or being pushed toward it. And so while more attention should be put on the back end regarding consequences and multiple offenses, I think a lot of our activists and a lot of our legislators are trying to balance the consequence versus changing the culture of why kids make bad decisions to commit crime. We find ourselves in a strange place because we don't want to hurt them and harm them and create worse kids, but it's a fine line because they have to have tough consequences. Because the reality is when they commit violent offenses, they're committing them in real time now. And so they have to be consequences now. But at the same time, we don't want to make them worse than they already are. So we want to work on changing culture, things like poverty and education and skills and jobs and good parenting skills, good conflict resolution skills, all of those things, mentoring, coaching, at playgrounds, here in schools, at churches, all of those things should be working together in a very multidisciplinary approach to change the culture that makes them choose crime and also have consequences for our really serious bad actors. And when there are multiple offenders, we just have to figure out through legislation what's the appropriate detention time for them, and then invest in how to correct them and rehabilitate them.
Thank you. Tori Rose, Sunny Rahman, Sekou Kasimu. Thank you. Chaplain Denise Reed, Relique Hayes. When you're ready, ma'am.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tori Rose, and I hail from Reservoir Hill. I'm also tonight's millennial photographer, so
Good evening.
thank you for giving me that opportunity. Thanks for everyone who spoke. I think Doc Cheatham was reading my notes, so he actually touched on a lot of what I initially was going to ask. So not to be redundant, I want to introduce myself a little. I am a community leader. I'm a business owner, good Christian woman. But on top of all of those things, I'm the mother of a 10-year-old little boy. So this question comes from that place. I've heard you say a number of things, many of which I just commend you. I appreciate your sound approach. I appreciate that you have an approach in training. I would like to get an answer as to what your approach will be for those people in the more vulnerable and more impoverished areas of our city. How will you police equitably? Also, when I think about myself and my family, who we've lost a number of relatives to the violent crimes in the city. I lost a cousin most recently a year ago, right at the North and Penn corner. He was 28 years old. So when I think about that, I can remember the exact day and time that happened, that phone call happened. I equate it to where most people were when 9/11 happened. If I said, where were you when 9/11 happened, you could tell me exactly where you were. That's a level of PTSD. And so my second question, outside of how will you equitably police, is how will you enforce mental health and mental support for your police officers? Because many of us are dealing with PTSD as citizens, but they're dealing with PTSD as well. And until they get the mental health that they need, the mental support that they need, we're never going to see sustainability in relationships between the police officers and the citizens. And again, I'm Tori Rose from Reservoir Hill, but that's where I live. That wasn't where I was born. I was born in Winchester. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And first of all, thank you for your concern. How will we police in a very equitable, just, fair, and constitutional way? And it's all about changing the culture, improving the culture, and making sure that the community policing philosophy, it is not a program. It's a philosophy. It's the way we think. It's the way we go about doing everything we do, the way we talk, the way we listen. It is all of that, the way we build relationships, the way we follow up to let you know we did what we say we're going to do. That is the community policing philosophy. So that is about training everybody in the police department, not just one time, but all the time, to make sure that we embody that philosophy and that it manifests itself in our practice when we show up and when you see us. It does require building free time for us to come and build those relationships that you will see, that when we're walking, when we're riding bicycles, we're at the playgrounds, we're here in the schools, we're going to be, in a way, demonstrating an approach to build relationships. Now, what I will ask you and what I will ask everybody to do, while we work to change our culture and while we will try to be extremely engaging to build new relationships and to repair broken relationships, I would ask the citizenry and the residents to change the way we educate our children. And instead of demonizing the police, we should be instructing our kids to now embrace them. At least meet us halfway. At least meet us halfway. And so often I would see parents, don't talk to him, and I think we so have to change that. We're going to do our part. When we find that officers are not doing the right thing, we're going to hold them accountable. We're, right now, because of the consent decree, but really because it's the right thing to do, we're trying to create systems of accountability, and I'm going through every part of the department now to create the best systems of accountability so that when we learn of things, and we're wearing body cameras now, so we have the ability to see ourselves doing the right thing and the wrong thing. And those systems of accountability that hold people accountable for doing not the wrong thing and reward those who do the right thing. But at the same time, we need the citizens and the residents to meet us halfway by now educating our children that, look, the police department is trying to change. This is what the police are really here to do. Of course, we've made mistakes in the past, but this is what we're here to do. And I think over time, that collaboration and that mutual effort to change both dynamics will pay off. Thank you. And mental health. Yeah, thank you for that concern. We have an officer wellness program. That's one of the first things I asked about, an officer wellness program here in the police department. Certainly, we want to make it the most robust officer wellness program that we can make it. And what happens with police culture, and this goes back hundreds of years, because we're this macho organization, we kind of just internalize things. You know, I've done it myself, internalized things and held it in. And then sometimes when I'm out there, or when we're out there, it just kind of comes out. And then you, the citizen, have a bad experience because I was holding something in personally. So we want to make sure that we have an officer wellness program that can treat in a confidential way, that doesn't punish the officer for coming forward saying, I need some help. And then help fix the problem so that we can be at our best when you call us. Thank you.
Sekou Kasimu, and I'm from Forest Park.
Good evening.
Madam Mayor, Mrs. Harrison, Commissioner, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you.
Is it Louisiana or Louisiana?
The fact that you think that it could be one or the other means you got it right.
Well, listen, at the risk of beating a dead horse, I'm a volunteer in the public school system. I graduated from the school in 1968, and I was outraged and indignant about what happened last Friday. We paying you a lot of money. We need your open, honest, professional opinion about our school police officers being disarmed. Out of all the jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, our highly trained professionals who ran to the shooting, they didn't run away from it. They ran to it, and one of them was unarmed. We need for you to help us educate parents who are being misguided, being manipulated by the media, especially the Sun papers. They instigated the removal of our last police commissioner, Anthony Batts. They think we forgot. Some of us didn't. I didn't. But I want your professional, open and honest opinion about trained professional police officers not being able to carry their weapons to protect our students based on this recent incident, among others.
So I gave you the first answer. My professional opinion is, like I said, in New Orleans, all the college campuses were sworn police officers. We had school resource officers, police officers from the New Orleans Police Department in the high schools. And the school board had armed, sworn police officers that they commissioned that went through a certification process that were in the schools. And I was okay with that, as long as they had the appropriate training to respond and they had limited authority within the school only to enforce the issues at the school. And as long as their training met the standard, and that when they screwed up, there was accountability measures to hold them accountable, as the chief of police in that city and in that state, I was fine with that. I think as long as, in my personal and professional opinion, as long as there are good standards in the state, and I don't know what the state standards are for private security that are armed, as long as the standards are correct and people go to the appropriate training to meet the standards, and the parents and the faculty understand that, and there are appropriate protocols for them to operate in the school, but the parents are okay with it, then it can be managed and then I can support it. But I don't know what the Maryland standards for armed security in schools. That's something that I'm trying to learn right now. But when it's done right and the standards are there, the training is there, the oversight is there, and the school board is something that overwhelmingly or unanimously wants it, and the parents together want it, it can be managed. And it's something that I could support if all that's working together.
Okay, I hope you are aware of the fact that our highly trained professional Baltimore school police officers, they are a separate and distinct organization. They have their own police chief, chain of command. A lot of parents think that they are a part of the Baltimore City Police Department, and they are not. And as far as I know, they are not a part of the consent decree based on their behavior or their record.
Yes, they're not a part of the consent decree, but what the experience that I have, that I bring to Baltimore, is that individuals, whether they're police officers for a school system or college, or security officers, private security officers working within the city limits where the city police, they are under a consent decree. The standards are extremely high for the police officers, and they're not the same. The policies are totally different. So the expectation from a school police officer on a response is very different from an expectation from a Baltimore Police Department. And when things happen, citizens are expecting the standard of the Baltimore police. But that's not always the case if the standards are not correct. And so in this scenario, because we're in a unique position, unlike other cities in America, the reality is we find ourselves in a very unique situation. Other cities can do whatever it wants. We're under federal consent decree, and that's just the reality. And I find myself unable to make the decisions I wanted to make because of that consent decree, but had to kind of follow it. So when you have other police officers with guns, we have to take into account the difference in the policies and the practices, because the expectations of the citizens are the same. We just want the best response, and we want the best trained people. I'm not saying that they're not good trained, because I don't know. I would assume that they are.
But you're going to find out, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out. But all of those things have to work together for you to see me support something like that.
All
you,
right,
sir.
thanks a lot.
Good evening. My name is
Good evening.
Chaplain Denise Reed. I'm a resident of Druid Heights community. I'm also a fearless mother who lost a precious son of senseless gun violence. I've lost my nephew to gun violence. I've lost 3 classmates from kindergarten. They all lost their sons 2012, 13, and 14 to senseless gun violence in Baltimore, but I'm not dismayed. I am not dismayed. I'm a member of Moms Demand Action, a national organization. I'm honored to be the co-chair for survivor memberships for members that lost their children to gun violence, and also a member of Mothers of Murdered Sons and Daughters United, Inc. Actually, you answered my question. I wanted to know what programs are in place so we can love on our beautiful children that's going through hardships in our precious city of Baltimore. I had a nephew who was going through hardships since he was 15. He's now 47. He was a drug king dealer in Annapolis, but God's amazing grace has loved him through. So I wanted to know, with the blue lights that's around our city, why is it that we can't put maybe like movie theater screens and encouraging our children's songs like There's a Hero in You, movies that's going to up encouraging them instead of the blue lights in our neighborhoods?
All right, let me make sure I understand you. You wanted to know what programs are available to help children who are what now?
Challenges, hardships, like I'm not sure if you had a chance to hear about our
All right.
to Life camp.
Ma'am, if you don't mind stepping back to
children who
the
are going-
microphone, since we're live streaming.
Children
to
who are
wrap
going
up
through
your question.
hardships.
Yes, sir. I know you had the pleasure of meeting my supervisor, Colonel Melvin Russell, and for the last 3 years, he has instituted a program, Love You to Life Camp, where we take children for 1 whole week during the summer in the month of August, and we just love on them through insurmountable hardships. So I wanted to know what programs can we do to enhance our children so they won't go back into the streets?
Thank you so
I
much,
got you.
Chaplain.
So in the police department, it's all about community policing. And so there will be times as we grow our ranks and as we train and coach and develop members of our police department, you will see us more engaged at schools. You'll see us more engaged at playgrounds. You'll see us more engaged at recreational opportunities. But really, I think what you're asking for are programs specifically designed to help children that are necessarily inside the police department. There are all kinds of social services within city government that exist to be able to help children who are traumatized and are going through hardships that are not necessarily in the police department, but exist in city government through the recreational department, through all types of other citizen services. And I believe we can connect you with the appropriate organization within the government, I think, to give you the specific help for trauma that I think you're looking for.
Thank you, ma'am.
Real quick,
Word
my-
about-
My
ma'am,
last
word-
question is,
just to check in,
could you
if don't
refer the
mind, we're at
youth
about
to
8
Moms
o'clock,
Demand
ma'am.
Action?
We're at about 8 o'clock, and we've got about 20 more people who want to ask a question. The police commissioner is actually going to be staying behind after the session, so if you wouldn't mind asking your follow-up question then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir?
Yes, good evening. My name is
Good evening.
Sunni Rockman, and I'm a resident of Liberty Heights. And I just come with a different message. I can say thank you to Madam Mayor, but I want to say thank you to everybody that's here. On behalf of Real Care Providers of Belvedere, We just like to share some information and let you and everybody that's here tonight, our doors are open and we're located at 2526 North Charles Street. You can learn about homelessness because it has no age.
Yes.
And lastly, I just want to leave something with everybody that's here where it says in the scripture, how can you say you love me and you haven't even seen my face, but you see your brother every day and you don't even speak to him? Let's take that back. Let's share that. Parents, stop being friends with your children and be parents. And let's be grateful every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, when you're ready.
Good evening. Good to see you again.
Great to see you.
So my question tonight, oh, my bad. My name is Raleigh Hayes. I'm from the Franklintown Community, Southwestern Police District. So my question tonight is, the Code of the Community Oversight Task Force made a list of recommendations. They released a report. If you haven't read it, please do. And one of those recommendations was that we need a separate independent civilian oversight of the Baltimore City Police Department. What's your opinion on supporting that or not supporting that?
Well, I have no objection to civilian oversight. I have not read that yet.
Specifically, independent civilian oversight.
Well, in New Orleans, we had an independent police monitor who wrote her reports and had access to everything that we were doing, especially in disciplinary investigations. And that had been built into the city charter and had been there for years. And I worked well with the independent police monitor, although she had her job and I had mine. And we worked well together. We have no objection to civilian oversight. First, I have to assess what it is I have here in Baltimore and what it is that works, what doesn't work, how we make it work, and what is the best thing for both the citizens or the police department. So right now, we're in the middle of, when I say we, I mean all of us in our team are in the middle of assessing what we have, what we need, who we have and who we need, and how to get it all. And then what will work, and then what will satisfy this consent decree, which is here, which is a massive overhaul of the police department. And certainly, this consent decree will be gone one day. And then what will be there to be oversight, what will oversight look for the police department when the consent decree is gone? So I have no objection to civilian oversight, whether it's in combination with the department or it's totally independent. I think as long as it's fair and just, efficient and effective, I think is what we all would want and support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from the audience. What about the ongoing investigation of Detective Sean Suter?
So I have been briefed about a number of things that are past investigations with the Baltimore Police Department, current investigations with the police department. But what I can tell you is that right now we're in an assessment, like you just heard me say, of what works and what doesn't work, who works and who doesn't work, what's fair and what is not fair. I'm not prepared to tell you everything about every single part of the Baltimore Police Department, not on day 5. Not on day 5. Right now, I'm in a learning mode, hearing from you, hearing from my command staff, executive staff, the rank and file of the police department, meeting with my city legislators by way of the city council, to figure out how this department is structured, how it works. Is it fair? Is it just? Is it constitutional? Is justice being served? What type of investigations are robust enough? What are not robust enough? Are the investigators competent enough to conduct those investigations? Certainly, that's a hot topic item. It is at the top of my priority list to make sure that, number one, the correct things were done, the investigation was fair, thorough, and impartial. If it is still ongoing, it's something that I can't comment on, but I can tell you that if it is ongoing, I will make sure that it is thorough, fair, just, and constitutional, and that in the end, whatever the disposition is, we'll be transparent and we'll be able to let the community know. Just like I'm here to answer all of your questions now, when the end comes and how it turns out, I'll be more than happy to be transparent and let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you all wouldn't mind joining me in recognizing Officer Johnny Rue, who is the officer that tackled Friday's shooter. He is with us. Johnny, where are you? Thank you. And our next 5 names are Jermaine Burrell, John Parker, Rebecca Snyder, Ashia Parker. Please remind us of your name and your neighborhood.
Hello, my name is Jermaine Burrell, and I'm from the Walbrook area.
Good evening.
Good evening. I don't really have a question. I just want to make a statement here. And my statement is that we're standing here in the murder capital of the United States, but we don't have a 21st century solution to this gun violence. That's my main concern, is the gun violence, because there is a solution. We need a dynamic 21st century solution, but the mayor can't do it, you can't do it alone. We need it at the federal level. And what's disturbing to me is that we're not even asking for it. You know, they can design guns. They're really smart people out there. They can design guns that can be tracked, just like your phone is a tracking device, and your appliances are tracking you. Guns can be tracked as well. And it's just mind-baffling to me that we aren't asking for a 21st century solution. Because the first time I said that to someone, they said to me, well, if they could do that, it would already be done. Well, no, it hasn't been done because we haven't asked for it.
First of all, I want to applaud you for bringing that up. And it's mind-boggling to all of us. It's mind-boggling to police chiefs all over the country. It was mind-boggling to me 4 weeks ago, back in June.
Yes.
It's mind-boggling to me now. It's about 2 things. Number one, it's about very, very weak and very, very few consequences for being caught with a gun and for using a gun. And everybody's just getting out, and they're going back doing the same thing over and over and over again, because there are very few consequences or either no consequences, because it's a misdemeanor getting caught with it, and everybody thinks they got to carry it. Now, thinking that they got to carry it, the decision to use a gun is not made when you pull a trigger. The decision to use a gun is made when you take it out of your house, when you stick it in your waistband and you walk out there, because when you left home with it, you've made up in your mind that if I got to use it, I'm going to use it. Now it's on the front end. Why is it that young men, and perhaps some young women, but why do people think they have to carry that gun, and why do they think they have to use it, and how did they get it? That's a point. That's a point you're making. But there's an entire culture across America, strong here in Baltimore, just like it was in New Orleans, about people thinking they got to carry guns, and they've predisposed in their mind that when I have to use it, I'm going to use it. So it's not the decision at the time they pull the trigger. The decision's made when they decide to carry it. But they carry it because they know that they can. And they know that the likelihood of going to jail is slim to none. Here's what happens in the mind of the criminal. They think to themselves, if I do this, will I get caught? All right? If I get caught, will I go to jail?
I'm talking about knowing that the guns are here.
They're here.
There are kids who can't afford to go to the store and buy a pack of gum, but they can go in the corner and get a gun. That's crazy.
Well, it's the prevalence of guns, and you're making a great point. It's the prevalence of guns.
So why aren't we even asking for a 21st century solution?
We are, but there are people and forces that are fighting against it.
Thank you, Ms. Burrell.
There are people and forces that are fighting against it. The people here are likely asking for it. But
From who are they asking? We're supposed to be so transparent. I haven't heard about anybody in this murder capital asking for a 21st century solution at the federal level, because that's where it's got to come from.
It sounds like this might be a
the gun
follow-up
industry is like any other industry. They make a product, they have to deliver it to a place, some place. And if those guns don't make it to their destination, then a tracking system would be able to tell them that, and then they would be responsible for all these excess guns that are in Baltimore.
I love you for bringing that up. The person you're looking at, your commissioner, my name is on written documentation with chiefs across America, from the Major City Chiefs Association, the Police Executive Research Forum, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police, asking for what you're asking for.
Well, I'd like to see that.
But
Thank you, Ms. Burrell. Mr. Parker?
How you doing? Good evening. My name is John Parker. How you doing? I have a question and a suggestion. The question is, could you have the mock cars that are deployed around Baltimore on the hot spots, if you will? They're sitting there through 2 to 3 to 6 hours a day while little girls are being shot 5 years old within a block radius, 2-block radius. Can you have the cars scan, go through the neighborhoods, and then come back to that spot if they have to disrupt the activity? And the suggestion is that the tip line in Baltimore, 1-800-CRIME STOPPERS, can increase the reward, well, many times there's no reward at all, from $1,000 to $2,000 to $5,000 to get people to give them an incentive to provide information. Because these murderers, if you will, come from our community and go back in our community. Someone knows what they're doing.
First of all, great suggestion, and I will look into the reward incentive for Crime Stoppers. For example, on murders in Louisiana, it was $5,000 flat, and then it went up from there.
That should be here.
And so I will certainly look into that. And as for the cars that are there, I will work with the commanders to find out what the deployment strategy is that they're using that mandates they stay there and why they're not able to move. And if we can work that out, that's an easy thing to fix.
Yeah, they're standing on the corners. When someone gets shot, it's broadcast that night, Next day, they're on the corner, let's say Lyndhurst and Emerson Avenue. Someone's getting shot 1 or 2, 3 blocks away in every direction. I was thinking maybe if they went through the neighborhood and come back to that same spot, they're going to sit there for 5 hours anyway.
Mm-hmm. I will certainly ask about that, but I want you to have the kind of relationship with your commander where you can ask them.
Okay.
I need you at the district station. I need you at the meetings. I need all of us showing up to the meetings, and I need you inviting this team to your neighborhood meetings where you can ask them. And I want you to have those relationships where you can feel comfortable just to call them and ask them.
Okay.
That's what I want, and I need all of us to be at those community meetings. Right. And then when you have meetings, invite our team. We're coming.
Don't forget the tip line.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Parker.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Snyder?
Good evening. I'm
Good
Rebecca
evening.
Snyder. I live in Roland Park, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you.
I have 3 questions. So you've talked a lot about transparency and accountability, and there are 2 pieces that I wanted to ask you about specifically. So right now, police misconduct records are not public, not even any bits of them. And I do believe that incidents like the Gun Trace Task Force, if those records had been available earlier, we would have found out about that corruption much, much earlier. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Secondly, also around transparency, you've talked a little bit about kind of quasi-police forces, a Hopkins private force, school police force. Would you agree that they should be subject to the same transparency, subject to the same PIA as the sworn police force? And then, third question is, I believe so strongly in community policing and really drawing on the expertise and the wonderful community and people in Baltimore. So do you have plans to recruit new officers from Baltimore City, and how are you going to encourage them to then stay committed and live in Baltimore?
3 great, very long questions. No,
Sorry.
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing. The last question first. Yes, we have a plan. We have a plan to recruit officers from Baltimore to the Baltimore Police Department. And yes, there are measures in place to create incentives for them to be here and to stay here. The second question about John's, about privatizing.
Right, and are they going to be?
I would love for any police department that calls themselves a police department, whether they're college or any other police department, to have the high standards and to have the same standards that we have. That very well may not be possible, but that's in an ideal world, that's exactly what every police chief would want. I wouldn't want to have a police department that have high standards and your next door neighbor doesn't have the same standards. So,
I'm talking high standards on transparency, like providing information to the community about how they're being
under
policed.
high standards, transparent, all of that would fall under having a high standard in running a world-class organization. That's what I would say every police chief would want the other organizations that are providing police services in collaboration with us to have the same standards, meaning we all run great organizations to the same level, transparency being one aspect of it. And then the first question was about
Officer misconduct files.
officer misconduct. So I understand that there's a Maryland state law about that. There are things I'm learning right now what I think and what has worked in New Orleans is very different. It's very different. We did not produce officer disciplinary records, but we did have an open data initiative where on our website, we put every single thing that we did, every stop, race, sex, date, time, location, all the body camera metadata, not the video itself, but the date, time, and location of a stop of a video, car cam video and body cam video, every single use of force, not the officer's name, but every single use of force, every disciplinary action, every single thing, every police report, every policy.
Every complaint of officer misconduct, too?
The disposition of the conduct.
Okay.
Not the person identified, but if there was a use of force at the corner of X and Y, and it came out to be a certain thing, we put that there for everybody and for the citizens to see. And you know what? The officers were okay with it because nobody asked for a public records request because everything was right there. And so that's very different here. And so I think right now I'm being educated on what the legal issues are and what the best practices in America are, working with our consent decree team, our labor groups, working to figure out what's the best thing for both the citizens and the department going forward to make us a world-class department, but makes us a department that allows you to trust us. And so that we have to now go and build.
Thank you.
Ms. Parker?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Pugh and City Council for affording us this opportunity. Welcome to Baltimore. My name is Ashia Parker. I am a resident of Sandtown, Winchester. Today I'm representing the No Boundaries Coalition, which is a resident-led organization in Central West Baltimore. We operate our office on Pennsylvania Avenue, Main Street. The merchants and the residents in that area are really working hard to reinvigorate those communities along the main street and in the corridors. But like has been stated before, we are in the midst of one of the largest open-air drug markets in arguably the country. What are your plans for more street patrol and more visibility with your police officers?
Great point and great question. The plans are, number one, to recruit, hire, and train far more officers than we have now, retain more officers than we're losing so that we increase our ranks. But then increase and implement the best technology that allows us to put out smart initiatives so that technology can do some of the work that they're now doing that frees them up. Looking at those smart initiatives and looking at what we're supposed to be responding to and what we should not be responding to, and creating the best practices, giving them, again, more free time. That time is built back into community policing patrols. That community policing initiative and philosophy with those patrols in there actually would bring them to your stores, your locations, your playgrounds, and everywhere we want to be. So all that visibility, the goal every chief wants for its patrol force is to have 30 free minutes of every hour. 30 minutes responding to your calls, 30 free minutes. That time can be built into deployment strategies and foot patrols and all the things I think you're asking for. What we have to do is reduce the number of calls we're going on because we're going on so many calls that we're just inundated and then we're overwhelmed and not able to do some of the things that we're asking for. So it's all about now creating the smart deployment strategy through smart initiatives, but it's going to require a lot of technology. It's going to require some training. It's going to require some good supervision and management so we hold people accountable to make them do it, and we know what to do when they don't do it. And so it's all of that working together. But that's part of the assessment that I'm making now, and that's really been a common theme over the past 4 nights that I've heard from the citizens.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you.
We have 2 questions from the audience. You've heard the saying, culture eats strategy for lunch. How are you able to change the NOPD culture, and what will be key here?
Excellent question. Culture change requires leadership, because everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on leadership. It's going to be about me building the most dynamic team of individuals at the leadership level who have both the will and capacity to lead, manage, and supervise at the highest levels all the time at the same time. And my ability to remove them when they don't perform at that level all the time at the same time. Because that leadership team will drive the selection of the best mid-level managers, the best supervisors, and metrics, performance metrics, and systems of accountability that let us know when people are performing well and when people are not performing well. Because an officer problem to you is really a supervisor problem to me. A supervisor problem to you is a command problem to me. A command problem to you is a chief problem to me. You got problems with officers, fix the supervisors. You got problems with supervisors, fix the commander. You got problems with the commander, go fix the chief. So it's about building the dynamic team and holding people accountable at every level. Just like we want severe consequences for people who commit crimes, I'm not saying we want severe consequences, but they have to be consequences for lack of performance. That drives culture change. Building dynamic leadership teams and giving people opportunities to rise up and lead. Finding the best talent and then empowering them to go do it and giving them the chance to be leaders. And then investing in their leadership ability. It is my job to groom, cultivate, develop, mature, coach, and mentor the people of this department so that they can grow and develop and become the leaders that you need them to be. And I'm gonna lead by example by doing that. That's how you drive culture change, by holding people accountable at every single level. But it begins by picking the best leaders.
How come the police can pass by corners when drugs are being sold every day, but nothing is done about it?
I'm hearing that over and over again. Not just here, but in some of the other districts too. And that's going to be a capacity problem and a supervisor problem. Do we have enough officers to even attack it and do it? First of all, is it safe? So if there are 30 people out there and there's one police officer in the car, is it feasible and practical and safe for one officer to stop and deal with the issue? That's number one. Do we have the capacity to bring more than one and attack the problem? If we do, then why aren't we doing it? Those are questions I'm asking that I have to learn the answer to so I can develop the strategy to go fix it. But it's a common theme that I'm hearing. I know that we're overwhelmed. I know already in my 5th day that we're taking in a lot of calls. And for every time we stop to do something, that's something else that we're not doing. So if you're calling for 911 because you're hurt, and then we're stopping to do X, then perhaps we can't do Y. Now, I'm not making an excuse about that. I'm only looking at the reality of what we're faced with. It's a common theme. I'm hearing it over and over again. It's something that we have to address and fix. But there is work being done. Just today, we did a press conference with the U.S. Attorney, the head of the FBI, and me about a young man who committed a bunch of murders who was part of an open-air drug market. There are more of those to come. The work is being done. I have officers that are assigned to the Drug Enforcement Agency, the FBI, the DEA, who are all working. Those cases don't get turned overnight. They take time. But I assure you, on my first day, I've been briefed by all of our federal partners, and I have routine meetings. The work is being done. Now, can more of it be done, and can it be done by members of the Baltimore Police Department? It's going to require training, like I said earlier, to make sure they're competent and they're confident to be able to make those approaches, whether on public property or private property, and can we do it safely? And how do we do it if there are 30 people on the corner and 3 officers? Those are some of the concerns. I don't know what the answer is why that officer didn't do it, but those are some of the concerns that we're addressing.
Great. The next group of folks: Maurice Hayes, Janet Blair, Hope Mims, Chandra Isaac, Mario Chang, Leslie Howard, and Yeshua Israel. Please remind us of your names. When you're ready, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you for being here. Councilman, everyone else. My first question is, my name is Maurice Hayes, and I live in Gwynn Oak. My first question, what do you plan on doing to address the morale issue among the police officers, and how do you think that's an important thing to take on? And second, welcome to Baltimore. And I just want to learn a little bit more about you. Can you describe briefly what you would consider your toughest day on the job?
My toughest day on the job. First of all, great questions. And thank you for being concerned about our morale. To start with dealing with morale, I put this uniform on the first day. So that when I showed up, I was a member of this team. Because I live in this city, I'm a member of this team. I'm the leader, but I'm also a member of the team. I put the uniform on and I wear it proudly. And I'm making my way around. And first of all, I want to thank them for the work that they do. But I am their biggest advocate. And I want them to know that I'm advocating, along with all of our partners, to get them the resources they need to be successful. Before I even took this job, before I even talked about what was necessary for me to come, I asked about, am I going to be able to get what I need to give the officers? Before I even, I said, I don't want to talk about me yet. I want to talk about, are you going to give me what I need for the officers? So right now, there are a number of things in place. I know our buildings are bad. We're working on that. The police academy is bad. We're working on that. So we're looking at new facilities or different facilities. We're looking at new tools, new resources, new technology, new training, but I'm here to lead them into the 21st century, and I'm part of them. My hardest day on the job, man, was going in the middle of the night to somebody to tell them that their son and daughter, their husband and wife was killed in the line of duty, and then preaching their eulogy in a police uniform. And I had to do that 9 times in 5 years. That's the hardest day for any police chief, because it is my responsibility to go deliver that message. And there ain't nothing like it. There ain't nothing like it. Thank you for being sensitive and asking that.
Hello, my name is Janet Blair.
Good evening.
And I am in the Robert W. Coleman community. My first 2 issues aren't specifically under the police department, but they do affect the officers' ability to do their job. And that is the long weeks that it takes to get city lights that are out back on. It's not good for them. It's not good for me to try to walk through the city and it's just dark. There are no lights, and it's frustrating as I don't know what to figure out who is going to come and make that repair. The second thing, so when you're in your departmental meetings with all these other city people, ask them who is responsible, who do we call to get that done. The second thing is the laziness and just inconsiderate people who leave their house and dump their trash. That's not good for anybody, whether it's the police officers, our city, or anybody. I have some ideas on things that could be done to capture these people who do these things, to let them know there's a better way. And if you don't want to find a better way, there's also fines. I know the police officers don't have time to write tickets for that, but it's the little things, I think, that lead to the bigger things that make things a little better for everybody. You've already kind of talked about making officers accountable, because everybody wants us to tell what they see. And I agree that if you see a crime, find some way to let somebody know what you've seen. But it's frustrating when police officers stand around and see fellow officers break the law and say nothing, and they cover up for each other.
That's a good point, and I want to address that one first and then go back to the other one. Just remind me to say lights, because there's something very interesting I want to tell you. Just remind me, because I'll forget. There's a program we had in New Orleans called EPIC. It's called Ethical Policing is Courageous, or EPIC. And it's a peer intervention system that we brought the world-renowned psychologists to New Orleans, and we're going to do that here in Baltimore to teach us about peer intervention and how we taught officers how to step in front of their colleagues when we see each other escalating and it's about to go bad, so that we can stop them, take over, and then take control of a scene. So that we don't have to cover up our colleagues' bad deeds and then lie about it and then get in trouble about it, or it just goes unpunished and it gets worse. We can actually step in front of the thing that could happen to keep it from happening, so we never even have to get to that. So we're saving careers, and we're saving lives, and we're keeping citizens safe. That worked very, very well. It's called EPIC. It's getting national attention. We're going to bring that to Baltimore. It's called a peer intervention system to teach officers how to save each other's careers, but how to, just like we're trained to see when citizens start escalating in behavior and then we can escalate to combat it, we're going to teach officers how to do that with each other so that those bad things don't happen. And then we don't have to worry about covering up and lying because the bad thing didn't happen. That's going to come. I assure you that's going to come. When it comes to lights, we were just walking through the neighborhood the other day, and we were stopping, and I stopped in the alleyway, and I talked to the mayor. I said, well, the street lights on the corner, but there are no lights in this alley. And then the officers were saying, well, this is the alleys where the crimes are occurring. And then we went to another corner, and then we made the same observation, and then there was a hill. I said, well, and it was daytime, but the lights here, but there was nothing there, but all the activity was happening in the place. But the person in charge of lights was there and was writing it down. And so your concern is being addressed.
Oh, okay.
And so we're working on strategies that over time you're going to see lighting improve in areas where there's bad lighting, because we see what you saw, and it's a very good observation.
Okay. North and Bentlow.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to Baltimore.
Thank you.
My name is Hope Mims. I am a homeowner in the Edmondson Village community. And I first and foremost want to start off with, I have had very good experiences with Baltimore City police officers.
Thank you.
I have two questions. The first one is, how do you plan to differentiate between qualified police officers, ones that make it through the academy, and your good officers, the ones that are going to do the right thing no matter what? Second question is, in some communities, there are like the blue lights at the high crime traffic corners. Do those lights help to solve crimes?
Two great questions. You, the citizens, will tell me who the great officers are. So for those of you that are really engaged, if I ask you who's the best officer in your district, you can tell me right now. Am I right? I'm going to know because you, the residents and the citizens, are going to tell us at community forums, in emails to me, in letters, at stations, and as a chief now for almost 5 years, that's exactly how I know, because the word spreads, and we know who the qualified officers are, and we know who the great officers are. Though they may not always get awards, the citizen comments and the regard and the reverence of the citizens for the great officers always comes through, and we know. And we want to do a better job of rewarding that. Chiefs around America, including me, have not done the greatest job. We want to do a better job of rewarding that so that that behavior can be modeled and then replicated by other officers. That's the goal. Your second question was about
The blue lights that are at the...
So I have some experience with those lights. What they do is they solve crimes, but what happens is sometimes they displace crime because people know where they are, so crimes are committed in other areas. The benefit they have is they help us identify, if not capturing the crime, the person coming in front of the camera before the crime was committed or passing in front of the camera after the crime was committed. So inevitably, yes, they do help to solve crimes. But it doesn't always, if it's pointed in one direction, it will not always capture the crime in progress. But it's an investigative tool that we can use to know when people pass in front of it or pass after a crime, and it becomes a great investigative tool. The more we have, the better. And so right now there are initiatives to bring online more cameras, to put in all the neighborhoods, but it will be a big push going forward with technology to really partner with citizens for private cameras. And the more citizens can invest in private cameras on their homes that face outward, that we don't need to look at them all the time, but only when crimes are committed, to come and have access to it so that, yes, we can see when people walk, though it didn't catch the crime, it caught them walking before or afterward. Great pieces of technology for evidence, for building good cases, and yes, they help solve crimes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Mario Chang. I was there at your first meeting at Forest Park.
Thank you.
How you doing? Basically, I just want to say thank you for,
Thank you.
I've been watching every single one, and you've been answering a lot of questions, and they've been even. Everybody, the people that I've talked to have said pretty good things.
Thank you.
The only thing I'd like to throw in there is I hope to see you on the street, because that is a big thing that people have said in the past that they appreciate with commissioners, to actually see you visibly walking around the street. And that's pretty much about it.
You're going to see me walking the street. You're going to see me driving. You're going to see me walking. I might even ride. Somebody last night asked me to ride a horse. Earlier today. My days and nights are turned around. Earlier today, somebody asked me to ride a horse. Man, that's who I am. I started, think about this. I'm starting my career in Baltimore in the community on the ground with the citizens. I'm starting this way. I don't know what happened in the past. I can't speak to any other commissioners. All I can do is tell you that this is who you see and this is what you're getting. And if you're getting me now, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome also
Thank you.
to City of Baltimore, and thank you, Mayor and City Council, for coming to hear the concerns of the people. My name is Yishia Israel. I'm a business owner in the 5100 block of Park Heights, as well as the president for the Pimlico Merchant Association. Within that, there are, because I want to make a couple of comments, also in the violent reduction zone as well, but we know that loitering is a law, and sometimes when my doors are open, it discourages my customers to come and shop, which is one. We realize that there's a problem, that there is a joblessness, there's a problem with expungement, there is mental disabilities that play a major factor in one's development for moving forward within their life. There has been some work that has been done in the 5100 block to get them jobs or get them expungements, but of course there's always more and more. We as RBDL businesses, we would like to, the presidents, because there are 10 retail businesses within Baltimore, which is a total of 1,700 businesses. So we as presidents would like to sit and meet with you, because all of us basically may have the same problem as the young lady spoke from Pennsylvania Avenue to Govan and so forth and so on. So definitely we would like to have an audience with you so that we could talk and we could begin to take back to our other business partners, because we also realize that some of the business owners may not be the best business owner, and there's some things that they may need to do to enhance their business. Because you did make a comment on the television in reference to if you have a loitering in front of your store, something about controlling it, and I may not be saying all the words properly, but on the flip side of it is that everyone that has a business, small business, they want to go home to their families at night as well, so they don't want to be infringed, with any danger. That's my time. So that's what I just wanted to share.
Thank you for that, and I welcome an invitation to come and meet with you and your network and association of entrepreneurs and business owners. I'm happy to do that. Number one, to hear your concerns, and that we, the leadership team, especially with the commanders in the district where your business is, to make sure that there's a direct connection between you and the command staff so that you can have those concerns addressed on a regular basis and in real time. And so while I'm happy to do that, and I will, I want to make sure that you're connected directly with a direct pipeline, a direct line of communication, so that y'all can address your concerns in real time, and that you can learn about the strategies that are already in place and maybe even help to develop better strategies to deal with the issues there. Regarding the nuisance issues and the loitering, it is our job now. We're going through an entire retraining, because we're changing all policies and all training to make sure officers are competent in knowing what to do when it comes to enforcing things on private property. On public right-of-ways is one thing, but on private property, when people are there, but perhaps there's a fine line between I'm not really breaking the law and maybe I am, but maybe I'm not. Sometimes we get a little confused about how to make that approach and what to do. So I'm inclined to make sure we're trained so that we're competent and confident on how to make that approach and do it, so that we can rid the loitering. The loitering will hopefully slow the open-air drug market, or at least move it but I want to make sure we're confident and we know what to do when we do that. So part of that's our training initiative to educate our own department with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Howard. I'm the chairperson for the Rosemont Community Interfaith Coalition. We are a coalition of 9 church organizations working in the Poplar Grove, Edmondson Avenue corridor. I'd like to welcome you to Baltimore.
Thank you.
And I have 3 questions I'd like to ask you. One of the issues that are concerned to people in Baltimore is the lack of police officers who actually patrol in our communities. A lot of times they come in vehicles, but they don't actually get out of the cars and actually walk the community. And so that when we report on criminal activity that's occurring in our community, when the police come through, for example, when there's drug activity, they can see the police officers in the cars coming from miles away. And they have sophisticated communication systems now where they can alert the drug dealers on the corner that the police are coming into the area. What can the police department do to encourage police officers to get out of their vehicles to actually interact with the drug activity that's happening on these corners? Because the people in the community, we know and we report that activity, but it seems like that the police drive by every day, and because they don't get out of their vehicles, that a lot of times they miss that activity.
Very good comments. 3 things. It's training, it's motivation, and supervision. All 3 of those things have to improve for you. But then you heard me talk about it earlier. There's got to be free time. So we have to reduce the work volume that we have right now, because right now we're just going from 911 to 911 to 911. We have to be able to get to the point where we're not doing that as much because we've reduced the work volume, and we've educated the community on here are the appropriate things to call us for. You know, if there's a dog barking or something else, believe it or not, where I came from, we were responding to everything.
Mm.
And oftentimes we're expected to be all things to all people. But really, we have to figure out the smartest solutions and the smartest deployment strategy to make sure we are responding to the appropriate things and that we have the free time to do exactly what you're doing. So that's what this assessment is about right now. The leadership team enlightening me and educating me on what we're doing, and we're analyzing data on what works, what doesn't work, and how we can tweak it and make it better. What we want to do, inevitably, as we grow more officers and build our ranks back to a sufficient number, we want to make sure that there's 20 to 30 minutes free on every hour. So if you're patrolling 40 minutes, 20 minutes are free. That 20 minutes is designed to get out and walk and get to know our neighbors, to stop at the playgrounds, at the schools, and at the stores. All of those things. When we do that, that's how, in a community policing philosophy, that walking initiative solves some of that visibility concern that we have. So, but then it takes more cars, it takes more people, which takes more money. So all of that we're working on.
I have another question.
Yes.
Sir, you mentioned that you had 3 questions. Do you have 2 more or 1 more?
2 more, actually.
Great. Can you ask both questions back to back?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. My second question, and you addressed that, somewhat. There was a recent report that there were 500 men shortage in the police department. How do you plan on addressing this shortage to maintain adequate coverage of the police in the community?
We're doing.
Your second question, sir?
And my second question is, a lot of the crime that's fueled in the community is fueled by poverty, and also lack of recreational activities for the youth. There used to be a police athletic league that provided alternative recreational activities for the youth. Would you be interested in reinstating a program similar to that?
I would be encouraged and enlightened, and the answer is yes. Having the adequate manpower to do that. Having the adequate manpower to dedicate a police athletic league just to do playgrounds and schools and coaching and mentoring, developing, absolutely I would love to do that, but it's about building those resources back. And yes, we have a very robust plan to recruit from Baltimore and from the surrounding area to bring our ranks back to an appropriate number. Building a better technology and bringing online the technology that reduces those workloads so that some of the things that we're responding to, we'd like you to go online and do. In the future, you're just going to be able to go online and fill out those reports. You can do it now, but it's not as robust as it should be.
Okay.
We're going to have an entire digital system that other great police departments have, and that's what we're going to do. And then you'll be able to go right from your phone or your tablet and do the very things that now you're asking us to come and write on paper and to do. And so all that's part of the technology improvement and implementation that's on the way. It's very expensive, but our mayor is committed to making sure we get that. But those things are going to make us the 21st century police department. When we get there, then we'll have the free time, and then we'll have the sufficient number to be able to be visible everywhere, because we've reduced some of the things that we have to do.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Ms. Isaac?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wasn't going to get up, but if my voice wasn't heard, I guess I would be that one less voice not heard. But my major concern is in my community. I'm from the East Baltimore community, and I've grown up in East Baltimore, and I have seen such a huge decline, and mostly with the way that my community looks. And Madam Mayor, you had come in the community once and made a phenomenal statement about that. And so I just think that with the crime that we are experiencing, I just feel like if the community had pride in their surroundings, if we didn't have all of the trash and the ugly vacant buildings, then I think that we could feel better about where we live and where we come from. I used to tell my son all the time, you don't have to be a product of your community, but with the way that our communities look today, sometimes it's just like the communities, well, if they don't care, then why should we? And somehow the community could be pulled together to clean up some types of initiatives. And then I just think if we had a prettier environment, then we would take more pride in it, and we won't be so hostile and violent. And my information here. Okay, Chandra Isaac.
Good
Thank
points.
you.
No, good points. And earlier when we started, there was a lady who talked about exactly what you're talking about. It's almost the same thing. It's a beautification project, and beautifying our communities, because it really is a science about beautifying and removing the trash, fixing the things, all of that, beautifying it. It just changes the mindset of how we see ourselves and how the criminal element sees us in our community, and it just moves somewhere else. It's a just strange science that's hard to understand, but it works. And thank you for making that observation.
Thank you. So please feel free. I'm also a community health advocate with the MedStar Hospital, so I work with a lot of homeless, and it's just so much, but please feel free to contact me.
We have your contact information. Thank you, Ms. Isaac.
Thank you.
PC, we have a final question from the audience. How will you tackle the unsolved murders in Baltimore?
Great question. So just today, we were in a couple of meetings, Police City Stat, looking at how we look at data and track data to include homicides and clearance rates. And then we looked at it in a new process we started today, tracking recruit stat through all the data analytics and how to track people all the way through the recruitment process, but specifically with homicides. It's going to be, number one, making sure that our detectives are the best trained, but that we have the best people who have the will and the capacity to perform and investigate at a high level. And we're going to make that investment into them. But we also need to make the investment in the community by building enough trust and doing a good enough job that you would trust us, that when things happen, people would tell us the information. But that's on all of us to build those relationships. But we're going to start it. We're not going to wait for it. We're going to start that trust-building process. It's going to be about manpower. It's going to be about education, training, professional development. It's going to be about resources that they have, and it's going to be about leveraging relationships with our local, state, and federal partners, working cohesively as one team to tackle this violent crime problem here in Baltimore. But making sure we have the absolute best and brightest conducting those very comprehensive investigations. But it will be working closely with our state's attorney's office, but it's going to be more importantly to work closely with the members of the community who have the information that we need to solve them. And that only comes with having good, strong relationships. And we're on our way, and we commit to you that we're working to build that right now.
Thank you. So before I turn it back over to the police commissioner to talk to you about what he's heard from you tonight, just a couple of reminders. When you all came in, there was a survey that you were given. We'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind filling the survey out, providing your feedback and any additional questions that you have to the police commissioner, and providing feedback to us on how we can make the rest of these forums better. We'd also invite you to attend other forums with us, or if you have friends or family members that haven't been able to make a forum, this is the 5th of 9. We have 4 more of these to do, so feel free to grab a flyer in the hallway. PC?
Thank you so much, Shante. Great job tonight. We appreciate it. There are 7 core themes I heard tonight, 7 central themes. And here they are. The residents of this community want to visibly see their commissioner walk in the streets. You're going to see me walk in the streets. You're going to see me walk in the streets. Where's my lady who's going to fix those greens for me? All right, I'm coming. Open air drug markets. That's been a central thing. That was a joke. Open air drug markets. I've heard that as a common theme here tonight and in other areas. That's a high priority. Stories of beautifying neighborhoods and how that positively affected the community. Proof positive that it works and reverse the effects of a declining community. Accountability and transparent that's real and consistent. A plan for engaging multiple offender youth and supporting young people. Another central theme. Visible patrol, the highlight of tonight, the lack of visibility and patrol. We're working with our command staff to create the smartest deployment strategies, implementing the right technology, and doing whatever it takes to free up the time so that we can give you that patrol that you want, that you need, that you deserve. Meaningful culture change in the department. That's what the consent decree is all about. I believe that's one of the several things the mayor has asked me to take on this leadership challenge in the Baltimore Police Department. It was done before, it can be done again. The things that you think are really hard and impossible are possible. It can happen. And as I close, it is my goal to cultivate, groom, motivate, develop the best leaders possible that you can be proud of, so that when my time is done, whenever that is, and I ain't going nowhere, the Baltimore Police Department will have the best and brightest leadership, but people around the country are going to come get our people to come change their police departments. Thank you all. Good night. I look forward to seeing you.
Before you all leave, we'd like to close out with Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Can I have your councilman please come up? Leon Pinkett. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we give one more round of applause to Acting Commissioner Harrison? I don't know if any other electeds have come in. I know I saw Delegate Melissa Wells, and so I want to thank her for coming out and giving her support. Oh, she's, okay, there you go. This is my 3rd night of the 5. I refuse to give Valentine's. I'm sorry. My wife insisted. Yeah. But I think what I've been impressed the most about is the community engagement. You know, there's so much that the police department can do, but it's this kind of community engagement that's really going to address the public safety issues in our city. So I want to commend the public for coming out and supporting this. Yes. And if I can just say two things really quickly, is that oftentimes the faith community is maligned by what it doesn't do or what it said that it's not doing in the community. But tonight is a visible representation from the faith community, and also is expressed by the chaplain. So thank you for being the community leaders that you are. And in closing, I would be remiss to say that, especially being here at Douglas, and I don't know if he's watching tonight. I would imagine knowing him, he's probably trying to watch the NBA All-Star festivities. But if you're watching Dreadlock Mike, to others known as Michael Marks. I'm sorry, you didn't miss anything yet. It doesn't really start until 9. But for Michael Marks, oftentimes we use the words courageous and heroic so loosely that it doesn't have the same impact that it used to have. But for Michael Marks, who was the individual here at Douglas who put his life in jeopardy to protect the other staff and the students. Can we stand up? I want it on tape so that when he sees this, that he knows that the public, that the city of Baltimore appreciates him standing for our young people. So Michael, if you hear this, if you're watching, if you see this on tape, we love you and we appreciate your courageousness at one of our most darkest hours. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Again, Michael Marks, thank you so much. And let me just say this to all of you. Thank you for taking time to be here. This is really important to our commissioner. It is important to all of you that you got the opportunity to share. And so I say let's give our commissioner also another round of applause. Let me also say to the Office of Community Engagement, Allie Smith, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. Give her a round of applause. To the Office of Neighborhoods, thank you for reaching out to the community and making sure that they were here. Thank you. And to the Office of the African American Male Engagement, thank you all for being here. They were also here to make sure that our students and our faculty and our principals were safe as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say enough how important this decision to bring this commissioner was for our city. When I was before a group of police chiefs from around the country who helped to advise me on the selection of a police chief, they said to me, to the extent that you can find someone who is a police chief who is focused on cultural change, do that, a change agent. To the extent that you could find someone who understands that community engagement is really important, find that person. To the extent that you can find someone who understands the importance of the consent decree, find that person. What is so great about the choice of this individual is that all three of those are embodied in this individual. But let me say this to all of you all. He doesn't get to do this work by himself. You know, you heard some comments from people in the community. One gentleman asked, you know, are you interested in PAL centers? What folks don't know is the Baltimore Police Department runs the largest basketball league in the city, the largest, over 700 young people. What a lot of people don't know is that we are building additional recreation centers and have 43 currently in the city. And when the schools close, even in the snow, they open up and make sure that our children are fed. Not only are they doing drone camps, but they're doing coding inside the schools. And in the next few weeks, you will see us give out over $3 million in just community grants for community groups and organizations, and it is about beautifying your neighborhoods. We got over 100 young people who are working in our Be More Beautiful campaign, cleaning up lots throughout our city. We've got a lot of work to do, you all. Policing and great policing is a part of it. But us helping you to instill pride in your neighborhoods and communities is part of our responsibility. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the future of Baltimore. And I heard so many people come to the mic tonight to talk about my beautiful neighborhood. And even those neighborhoods, as they've said, have lost some of the glow. We can bring it back. We can bring it back. But it's all of us together, working together to make sure that we do that. Cece, welcome to Baltimore. Welcome to Baltimore. And again, I wanted to give another big shout out to Shantae Guy, our MC for the evening, for every single one of these events. And let me just say this real quickly about Shantae, who is now running the leadership program for the Greater Baltimore Committee. Shantae joined us in our first call to action. It's been over 2 years because I said to the community, I can't do this work by myself. I need you. And over 40 community groups and organizations and individuals from all walks of life meet twice a month in City Hall and share with us ideas. One of the things that Shantae said earlier is we got to get out and walk the neighborhoods and communities. We do knocks on doors, sit on people's steps, hear from them about their needs and their wants. I also wanted to give, so thank you, Shantae. Thank you so much, because she taught us about mediation. If the mayor can sit through 2 hours of training, everybody can. So thank you for that. But also, finally, you all, I want to thank all of those individuals who participate in our violence reduction initiative. Every morning at 8 a.m. at the police department, and we will not forget North and Bentlow, will we? Will we commit? No. Because every morning at 8 a.m., Monday through Friday, and we take one day off during the morning, and we walk neighborhoods and communities. Some of you have walked with us through neighborhoods and communities so that we can see the problems. It's one thing to hear about it. It's another thing to see it. And that boils down to lighting. We're getting ready to add 100 new lights, cameras throughout the city. We've added 6,000 new lights, and we're changing every single light in the city to LED lights so that they can brighten up the city. We want to brighten up the city so we can brighten up the spirits of the people who live here. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.